Where are they forming their accommodations? Where are they baking bread with each other? Let us take a look at the situation that exists in the world today. Because there is a parallel and a precedent in the history that we are not cognizant of. This happened at the time of the Prophet, and it is happening right now as you have your eyes open and as you have your ears open. There is an accommodation between the mushriks of Makkah, the mushriks of Al-Hijaz. They go by the name of Al Saud, and the Yahudi factions that goes by the name of Al Yahud. And so this Ka'b ibn Ashraf, he goes to have a meeting with Abu Sufyan. And keep in mind the articles of the agreement that they signed on to, that nobody was to give any assistance or aid to the mushriks of Makkah. And keep in mind that 2 wars have already taken place between the mushriks of Makkah and the Muslims of Al-Madinah, headed by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is an act of treason, to form an accommodation with the enemy, to break bread with the enemy, to reach agreements with the enemy. This is an act of treason. And so how is this act of treason to be rewarded? So Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he commissioned one of the mu'mineen by the name of Muhammad ibn Maslama to go out and execute this treacherous person of treason. Does anybody have a problem with that? Does anybody have a problem with the fact that people sign their names to an agreement and then they break their word and form an accommodation with the enemy? Does anybody have a problem with defining this act as treason? And does anybody have a problem with the penalty for treason? And so you ask yourselves, why did they do this? Were they discriminated against in Medina? Were they made part of a different class? Were they given lower status because they didn't become Muslims? None of this exists in the history books. They were not mistreated, they were not misrepresented, they were not discriminated against. But what would cause them to engage in this kind of an act against people of character, against people of commitment, against people who did not mistreat them? Because of this internal dysfunction in their psychology. Because of this internal rejection of issues of truth and justice. Because of this internal rejection of those who would bring a matter of balance and reduce vested interests to where they belong. But this is not all. Treason and treachery is not all. There is more to this toxic segment of humanity. The toxicity which is exhibiting